The Eagles storylines, and they deserve to go first, right? Because they finished first out of everybody, 14-3 this season, earning the 1 seed in the NFC. History is on the Eagles' side as they have reached the Super Bowl every time they've won 13 or more games in the regular season. A big factor in their success this year is having 4 different players with double-digit sacks on the season. They're the first team with 4 players that have 10 or more sacks since they began tracking them way back in 1982. How about that? And on the offensive end, Philadelphia's all about the run with 32 rushing touchdowns. That is tied for the 3rd most rushing touchdowns in a single season in history and the most since the Chiefs, but that was way back in 2006. Head coach Nick Sirianni, he just spoke about the Eagles coming off the bye, getting set for this one.
You're hoping that you're continuing to rise your level of play. And I know that, well, hey, we didn't play our best game versus New Orleans and we lost to Dallas, and then, perceived we didn't play our best game versus the Giants as well. What results happen on the field and the way the game turns out doesn't mean you're necessarily not growing also, though. So we feel like we've just continued to get better. Just like we don't go back and dwell on a loss, we don't go back and dwell on a win. We just try to keep moving forward. We know that we're getting better in here. And it's not just like we're getting better because we're here. No, we're getting better because we practice hard. This team practices hard. They meet hard in the meeting room and they walk through hard. And when you do that, you are going to continue to rise. We know we're growing because of the way we work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so, and now we're 17, 18 weeks into this, and we should be playing our best football by now because we're continuing to grow.
Growing all season long, and hopefully if you're an Eagles fan, off of the bye as well, as we say hello to Eagles reporter Tim McManus. Tim, Jalen Hurts, the good thing is that he's no longer on the injury report, but there's still some concern for his shoulder, right? What have you heard about this as we inch closer to Saturday's game?
Hey, Sage, mostly positive news around Hurts. As you say, not even listed on the injury report this week. A.J. Brown, his good friend, was asked what the vibe was around Hurts, and he said the vibe is that he's ready to go and ready to do whatever it takes to get the job done. But an interesting moment at practice on Wednesday. So the Eagles do this ball protection drill that finishes with them doing a front roll onto a mat. But when it was Hurts' turn, he went up to the mat kind of gently and flopped onto his back. And that speaks sort of to what we're hearing behind the scenes, that Hurts isn't 100% yet, and that he runs the risk of re-aggravating that SC joint if he gets hit wrong or if he falls on it wrong. Certainly the Eagles know how vital his running game is to their offense. Makes it more explosive, no question about it. So I expect them to have more designed runs than they did in the regular season finale against New York when Hurts was just coming off of that injury. But they want him here for the long haul, and so he's going to have to be careful about avoiding contact when possible to make sure that happens.
Very interesting, especially considering they did have the extra time. Saw them in Week 18, but that extra time with the bye. So we'll see, Tim. Good report. Thanks so much for the very latest on Jalen Hurts as we bring Dan Orlovsky back in. And, eyebrows raised over here because if you're that tender, even in some of those dummy practice sessions, right?
Yeah.
What does that tell you? What's your biggest concern when you hear that?
I have high level of concern. I had not heard that. That was a great report by Tim. Because the reality is this, Week 18 was not win or go home. This weekend is. And Tim kind of intimated it. This is a wildly different offense when Jalen runs the ball and is used as a runner to when they don't use him. Now, in Week 18, they didn't, and they shouldn't have. There was no reason to expose him. But it's not only like Jalen just as a runner. It's the butterfly effect that Jalen's running and threat has for everything else. It makes the receivers' jobs way easier because you have to account for numbers down near the football. So A.J. Brown gets more one-on-ones, and you can distribute the football a little bit easier. Running backs like Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, there's one less guy that you have to defend against in the run game or run off of. The offensive line usually has better angles and leverages because someone is hanging backside to pay attention to Jalen. And it'll be very interesting to watch early on in this game how much, not the scrambles by Jalen Hurts, but how much of the designed run the Eagles are actually using, because you go into this game understanding Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, everyone's aware of that. They're all going to see that report.
Absolutely.
And they're all, if you're the Giants defense, you're going to go, well, let's find out how he feels, right? That's just how football is. And if you're the Eagles and your Jalen Hurts, and you know that that's a little bit tender. Not only the fear of re-injuring it, but can he play well enough to win this game if he takes a shot on it in the first quarter and go play well in the fourth quarter? So that's the first time I have heard that, and that it has a tremendous impact on this game in my eyes because Jalen's running ability.
I don't think we're surprised that he's not, 100%, right? Like perfectly after what happened.
But 100% because it's different in week 14 when you're not 100%. You know, like, and it's different. I'm not 100%, but I'm off the injury report. If you don't win, your season's over, and all the great accomplishments in this season feel voided because of that. And so that's why if you're the Eagles and Nick Sirianni and their play caller, Shane Steichen, you're sitting there going, I've got to make sure that I don't expose him to unnecessary hits. But when he is a runner, it makes our offense way more dynamic.
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge is you win or go home.
And you got to wonder Monday morning quarterbacking about that decision for week 18 as well. So, okay, yeah, the Giants absolutely are going to pay attention to that report, Matt.
They should, because the Giants are facing a 1 seed in the playoffs for the first time since Super Bowl 46. They have won 6 straight against 1 seeds in the playoffs, the longest such streak since seeding began in 1975. New York has a lot of experience in close games this season, 9-4-1 in one-score games, including the playoffs, giving them the second most such wins in the NFL, trailing only the Vikings. And Daniel Jones has helped lead the way for the Giants, and in a wild card round, he became one of 3 Giants quarterbacks with 300-yard passing game in the playoffs, joining Kerry Collins and Eli Manning. New on Sports and head coach Brian Daboll talked about preparing, even if he's injured, for Jalen Hurts.
Well, I think it's hard. You know, there's only one Jalen. He's a very good quarterback. You know, we try to give the best looks we can for Jalen, but it's never, you know, when you have a player of that caliber that can do so many different things, it's, you know, you do the best job you can out here in preparation, and then you have to play well on Saturday. He wasn't on an injury report, so we're, you know, I'm expecting his best, and you know, that's what he's given every time I've been around him. There are a lot of good football teams in the league. Everyone's good, and certainly we have a lot of good teams in our division. A lot of talented players, good coaches. Teams that are here at this time of year are the teams that earn it.
Our Giants head coach just moments ago, Jordan Raanan, our Giants reporter, joining us now from their facilities. And Jordan, this team has gone through a bit of an identity shift throughout the year offensively. So how has this offense kind of evolved and changed a little bit from the earlier matchups we saw against the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, when we were speaking to Saquon Barkley yesterday, he flat out said, our identity has changed throughout this season, meaning that the Giants aren't just relying on him like they were early in the season to carry the ball 20, even 30 times in a game. You look at the first 9 games of the season, Barkley had 20 or more carries in 6 of those games. The past 8 games, 0 times has he topped 20 carries. Now, in the playoff game, he touched the ball 14 times, but he's averaging close to 8 yards per carry. So what he's talking about is being more efficient with his touches. That's what Barkley thinks is the effect of the Giants' passing game being more effective. And I think the Eagles are going to see a different version of the Giants because this Giants passing attack is better now. The Giants as a whole, they're more confident in Daniel Jones and this entire passing attack. You're talking about his connection with guys like Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton. It's reached new levels really probably in like the last 6 weeks or so. So I think that the offense that the Eagles are going to see is very different from what the Giants were earlier this season. And as far as Barkley and those decreased carries, I've had this conversation with him so many times over the years. Are you touching the ball too much, too little, too much, too little? And he always says, look, I don't care if I have 3 carries. I don't care if I have 30 carries, as long as we win. And one more last thing, because I heard Tim McManus and Dan talking about that Jalen Hurts. I found it very interesting in regards to how the Giants defend him and go after him and try to get that hit on him. Jared Davis, one of the Giants' starting linebackers, told me yesterday, you know, we want to be as physical as possible with Jalen Hurts. So that kind of rung a bell right there for me.
Wouldn't expect anything less than an NFC East playoff matchup. Jordan Raanan, our Giants reporter. And I want to go over to Dan Orlovsky because, Dan, you just heard a second ago, there is an identity shift. They are more comfortable with Daniel Jones. Yeah. They have been playing at a higher clip. So with all that being said, what's the thing you're going to be looking for with this unit who is playing at a higher level right now?
It still goes through him, though. And I understand that he's getting less carries, and that makes a lot of sense and value. but they still find a lot of ways to get him the football. They're using him a little bit like the Saints have used Alvin Kamara. The 49ers have used a player like Christian McCaffrey. I don't need to turn around and hand the ball off to you behind a wall of a defensive line. Sometimes it's a quick little kicked out screen. That's essentially a handoff. Sometimes it's 3rd and 3 and I'll leak you out and pick the linebackers and I'll throw a ball at the line of scrimmage for 20 yards. The different ways that they use him, and I kind of mentioned this with Jalen, there's a butterfly effect. The usage of Saquon Barkley helps players like Isaiah Hodgins. And my wife is from Philadelphia. I think people know that she's a diehard Eagles fan. And I told her this week, I'm telling you, this game is not going to be a layup. And Matt, the reason why is this. The Eagles structurally are very similar to what the Vikings do defensively. Are they better? Of course they are. Better defensive line, coverage, all that. But the way that he's playing, Daniel Jones, when it comes to the feel he has with Isaiah Hodgins, if they play that little bit of like soft shell zone, Daniel Jones can have a good game. Isaiah Hodgins will have another 8+ catches. And this offense can be methodical, and they'll continue to find ways to get – because if I told you the weakness, it's the linebackers in coverage for Philadelphia.
Best player on the field.
You know what I'm saying? So it'll be fascinating because to Jordan's report, this is a different offense, the different pieces that they have. I think this has got a chance for the Giants offense to feel good about their performance.
Also, we talked quarterback injuries with Jalen Hurts. He's healthy, and he's sneaky mobile with the ability to run.
Why you got to use sneaky mobile? Why can't he just be mobile?
Okay, he's mobile.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. You know, he doesn't have to be sneaky.
Were you sneaky mobile? Were you sneaky?
No,
you weren't.
I can't jump from here to there.
That's true. You were just like sneaky.
I was horrifically immobile.
That makes sense. Dan, all day. Thanks.
Coming up, much more playoff talk on the way. We're going to hear from Doug Peterson as the Jags get set to face the Chiefs on Saturday. Plus,